All right, let's start with the Eagles. They are hosting the Niners this weekend, Colin. Sunday, 4:30 on Fox. Good game. Nick Sirianni rested his guys in Week 18 ahead of this Niners matchup. Sirianni's confident Jalen Hurts. His experience will carry them.
Obviously, Jalen's a great player and has had a lot of big game experience. You know, the amount of big games we play on a yearly basis in our regular seasons, you know, are huge. You know, every time he steps out in the field, I feel like Jalen does a great job of, you know, continuing to raise his level of play. And so, yeah, he has a ton of experience. And the quarterback we're playing has a lot of experience, too.
Yeah. Well, you know that my theory on 4, if the line is 4, 4.5, or 5, take the favorite.
Yeah, it's tough.
Vegas is telling you one team is better. Vegas would rather the number be 3, 4.5. That's they're telling you Philadelphia is going to win this game. The numbers leading me to this.
Yeah, the numbers for Hurts say that in the last 3 years, look at those playoff numbers, Colin. Very impressive, 6-2. Yeah. Now, just for fun, I went and compiled all the NFC quarterbacks and their playoff wins. What's that matter? It's clutch, important January football. Caleb and Bryce Young are rookies, so they have 0. Sam Darnold 0-1 in the playoffs. Jordan Love 1-2. Brock Purdy 4-2. Matt Stafford 5-5. Jalen Hurts, the much maligned Jalen Hurts, 6-3 his career in the playoffs. Yeah. The most experienced quarterback with the wins. Stafford obviously has played longer. But Colin, I think that's interesting that everybody's selling the Eagles short. And as you open the show with today, only 2 quarterbacks in the entire playoffs were not first-round picks. And they're meeting Sunday on Fox. Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts. Everyone else was a first-round pick. Somehow, Hurts was overlooked. I like him a lot. I like him in this spot.
You say overlooked. He was drafted in the 2nd round. So was Drew Brees.
Well, remember, they had Carson Wentz as their guy. Yeah. And they were like, that's a smart organization. You say this all the time about
you have to see problems
Howie Roseman
before they appear.
Yeah.
And the really smart teams in this league are draft day. They're often drafting positions that they don't have an immediate need, and it tells you they're probably moving off a player who's not good in the room. They don't love his agent. Negotiations have started. So, yeah, I mean, Philadelphia does a really good job of moving off potential problems a year early.
Really smart. A.J. Brown in the offseason, I think he's gone. I think my mock draft, I think they'll get a wide receiver in the first round. Would not be surprised at all. Eagles have a great roster. Like, they're almost set. Maybe you get another offensive lineman. All right,
Okay. A bit scattered in my thoughts there. This is such a crucial season for Jalen Hurts, for a multitude of reasons. And the situation is, frankly, completely unjust. Allow me to elaborate. I've been transparent about my significant concerns regarding the coaching, particularly the offensive coordinator. This isn't exactly a controversial stance, but the irony isn't lost on me. I can't locate the exact clip now, but I distinctly recall, back in the spring, March, April, May timeframe, voicing my apprehension. I was saying, I'm worried about the coordinator. I don't possess much faith in the coordinator. I had no foundation for such faith. That was the singular element tempering my overall confidence in this squad's potential. It's as if I was about to sneeze on the truth, and then I did. Pardon me. And so, here we are, at the moment where it matters more than anything, the playoffs. Facing what appear to be the most talented rosters, the most shrewd coaches, and so forth. This is when play calling and scheme are paramount. I expressed a similar sentiment to Detroit Lions supporters, as I harbored analogous doubts about their coordination. That, evidently, was also correct, given Dan Campbell ultimately assumed play calling duties. But when they built momentum, when it seemed they had resolved some problems, I acknowledged it was fantastic, exciting, reason for optimism. However, I cautioned that there's a chasm between devising a game plan against lesser opponents with inferior rosters and coaching staffs, and doing so against the elite. That's why, even when they faced the Kansas City Chiefs, who, while feisty earlier on, were hardly their dominant selves, the challenge was categorically different. Calling plays against the New York Giants is a world apart from calling plays against a defensive mastermind like Steve Spagnuolo. We often discuss football as a chess match between the coaches. Now they're stepping onto that board, and the prospect is profoundly disquieting. Prior to our Super Bowl discussions last season, the focus was on Jalen Hurts and the quarterback hierarchy. Much of that dialogue centered on Hurts being perceived as the weak link. Where did he rank? I recall analysts placing Baker Mayfield above him, the typical discourse. I voiced my frustrations extensively, but the core conclusion I reached revolved around a question. What is Jalen Hurts' superpower? For Josh Allen, it's his multifaceted physicality. For Lamar Jackson, it's his electrifying mobility. These players possess distinct, defining traits that cement their value. With Hurts, it seemed his superpower was his capacity to elevate his performance in the most critical moments. He genuinely does. His playoff performances have been extraordinary. This was before his Super Bowl victory and MVP award. I argued then that while any quarterback can have a brilliant singular game, doing it repeatedly starts to define your essence as a player and competitor. I contended that even if the Eagles lost, but Hurts performed exceptionally, it would significantly bolster his standing. This is where perspectives diverge, as I constantly reassess my evaluations. I don't anchor myself to a single, immutable verdict. If Hurts had played terribly following that run, I would have adjusted my view accordingly. However, the reality is what Hurts has accomplished in the postseason, his demeanor, his execution in high-leverage situations, has been remarkable. There are those who dismiss it as a product of circumstance, roster strength, or luck. For me, witnessing him consistently excel on that stage carries immense weight. For others, I suspect it won't matter. Hurts could deliver a masterclass against the San Francisco 49ers, yet if the team loses, the narrative might briefly exonerate him before, by the following summer, reverting to, Jalen isn't the guy. Those conversations would persist. But if he plays brilliantly and they win, securing another Super Bowl, that alters the calculus entirely. Suddenly, you're discussing 3 Super Bowl appearances, multiple MVP-caliber performances. Even then, I believe a player like Hurts will often be shortchanged in the credit department. The profound injustice for Hurts now is that there is zero margin for error in the playoffs. He is the one quarterback presently who cannot afford a postseason failure, whereas Matthew Stafford can, Josh Allen can, Patrick Mahomes can. We can list them. The irony is palpable when proponents argue Mahomes has this legacy, Stafford has that ring, as if Hurts doesn't possess playoff records, a Super Bowl ring, and a Super Bowl MVP himself. He has the very credentials used to grant others the benefit of the doubt. Now, he is tasked with achieving this feat under a coordinator in whom I have a fundamental lack of trust. I do not believe this coach will prevail in the strategic chess match that unfolds drive by drive, game by game, throughout the playoffs. The deck is stacked against him, which would render any success, from my vantage point, even more impressive, undoubtedly. Consider Matthew Stafford, a Super Bowl win, followed by postseason losses. Yet no one labels that lone Super Bowl a fluke or diminishes his role because he wasn't the MVP. Those conversations don't materialize for him, but they would for Jalen Hurts. It's a peculiar reality of his current standing. It's a testament to Hurts and to the Philadelphia Eagles organization that he's in this conversation. As was noted, he's among a very select group of quarterbacks not drafted in the first round to achieve this. At his age, having reached multiple Super Bowls, a feat most never accomplish, and winning one, places him in rarefied air alongside only Aaron Rodgers and Stafford, among active playoff quarterbacks with a title. His playoff accomplishments are extraordinary. As has been noted, most quarterbacks hover around a 500 postseason record because the structure dictates you either win the Super Bowl or your season ends. Sustaining a record like 6-2 is nearly unsustainable unless you keep winning championships. If he were to win again this year, pushing his record to 10-2, it would be staggering. It's a wild proposition. This context makes the present situation rather tragic. We speak of experience. Jalen Hurts has it. Nick Sirianni has it. Veterans like Vic Fangio and A.J. Brown have it. Even rookies from last year now possess significant big-game experience. Yet, the most critical coach on this team, the offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, does not. He lacks it entirely. That is a monumental problem. Experience matters immensely, a truth evident in any walk of life, be it a profession, education, or manual labor. I recall a job removing carpet from schools. Initially, you work hard, but inefficiently. You learn, you adapt. I resisted using a specialized machine, opting for pliers, thinking I was being tough. eventually you learn. Use the machine. It's smarter, less physically taxing. That minor epiphany is experience. You comprehend the task better. Now translate that to competing at the highest level, not against an inert floor, but against a cunning opponent who may also have that experiential edge. This should be a substantial advantage for a team. I consistently applaud Howie Roseman. His work in constructing the Eagles roster has been exceptional. Eagles fans should be immensely grateful. Observe the turmoil elsewhere. The Washington Commanders' erratic path after a promising year, the New York Giants' struggles, the Detroit Lions' challenges. Across the league, it's often a mess. The messiest scenario for Philadelphia? Winning a Super Bowl, then winning the division the next year, securing the 3 seed. Having a 2,000-yard receiver and a quarterback ranking in the top 10 by every metric. That's considered a down year. Contrast that with what constitutes a bad year for the New York Jets. Mere existence. Howie Roseman is central to this Eagles reality. However, one must be forthright. If the Eagles do not win the Super Bowl this year, I believe a figure like Kevin Patullo will be a primary reason. It would represent one of the most significant missteps by Howie Roseman, without question. That is a difficult pill to swallow. The franchise is in an enviable position. The quarterback, the roster, segments of the coaching staff, the talent, the proven greatness, the big game experience, the resume of winning at the highest level are all present. And then, for the most crucial coaching hire, the one needed to propel this machine forward, the selection was Kevin Patullo. It's just tough. It truly is. Much of this playoff run, and I'll conclude here, will hinge on the defense and Vic Fangio, whom I view as intertwined, as well as whether the offensive line can hold firm, establish Saquon Barkley and the running game. We witnessed Tank Bigsby running with ferocious intensity, ready to demolish a wall. If that same intensity isn't mirrored by the entire Philadelphia Eagles team come Sunday, it would be among the most shocking developments imaginable. The stakes are astronomically high, and the path is arduous. Statistics suggest the 1 seed has roughly a 50% chance of reaching or winning the Super Bowl, the 2 seed about 25%, the 3 seed around 5%. I often find such figures slightly misleading, as they imply the seed itself is the primary factor. Typically, the 1 seed is simply the best team, hence their success. It's correlation, not solely causation from home field advantage, though that certainly matters. Weather, crowd noise, etc. This season, the hierarchy of team quality might not perfectly align with seeding. The tangible advantage of hosting a game would be most impactful against a team like the Los Angeles Rams or San Francisco 49ers. Weather against the Chicago Bears might be a toss-up. Since the Seattle Seahawks are the 1 seed, hosting them was never an option anyway. Therefore, the seeding matters slightly less to me in this specific context. The paramount concern remains the quality and experience of the team itself. All the requisite quality and experience exist within the roster. There is one glaring element with the potential to hinder this team. It is certainly not Jalen Hurts. Consider, Sirianni is confident. Hurts is confident and battle-tested. Yet, his offensive coordinator possesses no big game experience. None. This is a massive liability. When Patrick Mahomes partnered with Andy Reid, Reid brought over a decade of high-stakes experience, Super Bowls, multiple NFC championship games. He had made mistakes, celebrated successes, learned, and evolved. That is the necessary incubation. From an offensive coaching perspective, the Philadelphia Eagles have none of that reservoir to draw upon presently. That is profoundly anxiety-inducing. It feels like being in a horror film. You've just discovered a dusty tome in a forgotten language. A thunderclap echoes, a knock rattles the door, the house groans, and a shadow looms outside. That's our current state. We're in Kevin Patullo's funhouse. Will he navigate the labyrinth? Will he deliver a triumphant speech in Philadelphia, next to Jalen and Saquon, all riding a wave of euphoria before the Rocky statue? I cannot say. But that is precisely what hangs in the balance. Those are my reflections. I am eager to hear yours. What are your thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles? Sirianni expresses confidence in Hurts, but does that assurance matter given the other pressing questions? Share your perspectives. I read every comment. Whether you concur or dissent, let's engage in discussion, even debate, but ultimately, let's enjoy the discourse. please consider subscribing. We are cultivating a fantastic community here and would be delighted to have you join. My aim is to forge a space where we feel connected and excited to participate. I believe we are well on our way. Also, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it significantly aids visibility within the platform's algorithm. Thank you sincerely. Hank.